Got it. Thank you. Um, yeah, so before we start, I want to give you a little bit of an intro for Mitra. She is a very special person for us. She's a senior program officer at Legacy International. She's acting as a project director for several programs, such as the Professional Fellows Program, the Community Health Initiative, the National Security Languages Initiative for Youth. She's also a professor at the Political Science Department at the University of Lynchburg. And in addition to all of that, she is also a certified nutritionist. And that's the hat she's going to be wearing today. She's very passionate about healthy food, healthy cooking, finding nourishment through whole foods, and most importantly, helping clients reach their nutritional goals. She's a graduate of the Huntington College of Health Sciences in Comprehensive Nutrition and Vegetarian Nutrition. And she has directed her business, Healthy Living with Whole Foods, for over 15 years. She combines the nutritional knowledge of both the East and the West and pursues a balanced approach, an understanding of how the body seeks to regulate itself and heal itself to remain healthy. Her main focus in clients is diabetes, weight management, healthy eating, cardiovascular health, irritable bowel syndrome, food and mood relationships. In addition to counseling, Mrs. Rash has prepared and reviewed menus for various organizations and consults with companies and individuals to discuss health and nutritional concerns. She also has a BA from Manhattanville College in New York and a master's from New York University, and is fluent in Farsi, English, French, and Spanish. So she can also be reached if you are interested in nutritional counseling. I have her website here and I'll post it. In the meantime, we will turn it over to Mr. Rash for a few opening words.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, or wherever you are, good evening. Assalamu alaikum, peace. We are living in interesting times. I'm glad we have our Global Viewpoints Forum. Today, I wanted to start with a Middle Eastern proverb, which is, he or she who has health has hope, and she or he who has hope has everything. Of the myriad of challenges one faces in their lifetime, problems to be solved, opportunities lost or needed to be seized, challenges in school, in the family, in social situations, perhaps the most important one is how to be attentive to and sustain our own health, especially during crisis. As we are the first line of defense against illnesses, we need to be cognizant of the choices we make and the environment we're in, the concern we have not only for our own life, but for the well-being of others. So over the decades, so many alumni of Legacy International programs have dedicated their lives and their livelihood to serving others, especially in the fields of medicine, public health, social services. You know, the values-driven philosophy of Legacy International, I am sure, has drawn these exceptional individuals to our programs and reinforced their core beliefs. The same is reflected in our own devoted, talented, and dedicated staff, some of whom you met today. Last week, we did our walkathon last weekend, and certainly something that is based in people's commitment to health and personal well-being, as well as the obvious support for our organization. We have seen time and time again, as I'm sure you have also, that our care for others is directly linked to our care for ourselves, so that we can best serve others and fulfill our hopes and aspirations. Or as we say, rephrasing Dr. Maria Montessori, we help people to help themselves and others. Stress caused by uncertainty, confinement due to coronavirus, lack of personal contact with friends and family is often addressed like many other situations only after negative situations manifest. And what is parallel to our health, it seems, is reflected in society at large in decision-making and social political circumstances and global environmental crisis. We tend to be reactive versus proactive, looking back rather than forward. But Legacy International began in an era of self-reflection 41 years ago, post-Vietnam, the advent of globalization as a principle for future engagement, economically, politically, socially, as well as a time for transformation. We looked and continue to look forward, and consequently, we are pioneers in environmental awareness and cross-cultural engagements, people-to-people dialogue and tolerance training. And also, we even have organic gardens for over 40 years here on our campus. We deal with international education, diverse public issues, and health issues. My dear friend who recently departed this world, Dr. Harold Robles, who, while suffering from illness, presented at this forum last spring, and was a disciple, as many of you know, of Albert Schweitzer. He spoke always of prevention through education. And he was the co-chairman of Legacy's International Board of Advisors and a major influence in addressing the HIV/AIDS in South Africa and around the world. Prevention, be it health-related or peace and conflict-related, is the most powerful tool to bring health of body, mind, and soul, health of society, health of nations. So today we're honored to have Mitra as our presenter. As was noted by Bernie in the introduction, Mitra wears many hats, yet they are all related, just as our lives are intertwined with these subjects and personal talents. What is critical is that they are anchored in our own personal self-awareness and mindfulness. Mitra brings a global perspective, a culturally sensitive point of view to nutrition, as she does with everything else that she does, and dealing with personal health management. As you may know, I often quote Dr. Schweitzer, for he was a Renaissance person, a doctor of divinity, a medical doctor, a humanitarian, a philosopher, and a scientist and renowned organist. He summed up his philosophy that also captures Legacy's universal values mission in only 3 words: reverence for life. And I think most people would first think reverence for lives of others, but coming from such a servant of humanity, we must include ourselves in that statement. And when we see the world as a community, people as part of the same origin and family tree, and understand the relevance of our own health and wellness in that schema, we can truly create and leave a legacy of personal, collective, social, global health and well-being. Mitra will help us understand that and affirm that. So Mitra, it's up to you.
All right.
Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rash. And let's just give Mr. Rash and Mitra Rash here a round of applause. Feel free to use the reaction button or just a round of applause. Welcome.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. What a wonderful introduction, both from Mr. Rash and from Bernie. And I feel very humbled by this great introduction. So thank you very much for coming here today and for inviting me to be part of the Global Viewpoints Forum. And I have done nutrition coaching for over 15 years. And I find great joy in working with my clients, seeing them making step-by-step progress in their health once they understand how to use food to their advantage and how to make the proper food selection. So over the years, my clients have been able to incorporate whole foods, mostly plant-based diets, into their daily regimen. And they find themselves to be stronger, more vibrant, more confident, and not in need so much of taking medications, and also surprising their doctors with their new approach to health and well-being when the doctors see that they no longer need to take certain medications. So today I wanted to share with you some of my thinking on nutrition and what I have gained in these past 15 years, and hope that in some way that will benefit you, especially because we live in this very strange time of the COVID-19 period that we are all involved in. So, so there is a difference between food and nutrition. Although nutrition is embedded in every bite of food that we put in our mouth, we are not expected to think of nutrition at all every time we cook our food, because a big part of eating is the pleasure that we get that comes from consuming food. And perhaps often we tend to eat more for convenience and speed and not for health. But the reality is that anything that we put in our mouth has a component of nutrition in it. And every time we do this, we are making a choice. And the choice is that, what is that food going to do for my body, for our body? How is it going to affect our brain health? How is it going to affect our heart health? How is it going to affect our digestive health or our bone health? So the food that we eat gives our body the information and the materials that it needs to function properly. If we don't get the right information to our body, our metabolic processes suffer and our health declines. So nutrients give our bodies instructions about how to function. Thinking about food is in this way then gives us a view of nutrition that goes beyond the notion of calorie counting, beyond diet and dieting, beyond good foods and bad foods. This view leads us to focus on foods that we should include in our diet first, rather than focusing on foods that we should exclude. And this is a specific approach that nutritionists or nutrition coaches take with their clients. This is the first step that I take with my clients to inform them and to open their eyes and to put them at ease with the process of nutrition coaching. So we know that our food is not the same as it was 50 years ago or even 20 years ago. And the question is why? Because nutrients in the soil have been depleted, so the food grown in that soil has fewer nutrients in it. Chemicals, on the other hand, are increasingly used in raising both plants and animals, particularly on huge industrial farms that specialize in just producing a few products. Our supermarkets are full of convenient packaged foods that mostly appeal to our taste buds, but they compromise our nutritional pathways. So if we get too much food or food that gives our bodies the wrong instructions, we can become overweight or underweight or at risk for developing different diseases or conditions such as arthritis, diabetes, heart disease, and more serious illnesses. You see here that on this slide I have written SAD. And sadly, when I was studying nutrition, we learned that sadly, the acronym that this stands for is the Standard American Diet. And they used to teach us that the Standard American Diet's acronym is actually SAD. And that the Standard American Diet, as we all very well know, relies heavily on processed foods that include artificial colors, additives, preservatives, flavoring, chemically altered fats, and sweeteners. And these additives and chemically altered substances, when used over a long period of time, may be giving our bodies the wrong signals. Because I said we have the pathways that food travels throughout our body, so they receive the wrong information, the wrong signals, instead of receiving the information that they need to function properly. So if any of you had watched a movie some years ago called Super Size Me, if you are familiar with that, what it is that you see a person, and this person in the movie chronicles the foods that he was eating, they were giving his body the wrong message. And in just a few weeks, the excessive amounts of all the saturated fat that he consumed and the trans fatty acids that he consumed in the fast food diet that he was eating led to a lot of inflammation and higher blood cholesterol level. And that fast food diet failed to provide the information necessary for normal metabolic function, which also then contributed to his health challenges. So ironically, while 17,000 new products are introduced each year, 2/3 of our calories come from just 4 foods, and those are corn, soy, wheat, and rice. So basically then, in short, what we eat is really central to our health. And of course, Mr. Rash referred to a Middle Eastern saying, and if we go even way past that, earlier than that, the Greek philosopher Hippocrates said thousands of years ago, let thy food be your medicine and your medicine be your food. So having said that, I just want to make sure that as nutrition coaches, what we do is that the worst thing we can do with our clients is not to present a picture that gives them the message of deprivation. So what we do is actually focusing more on moderation. And we should practice eating everything in moderation. So all the things that I mentioned about the standard American diet, all of us are guilty of that. Well, I shouldn't say many of us are guilty of that. And most of us are consumers of those products. But at the end of the day, what's important is looking at moderation rather than deprivation. So one aspect of this talk is about stress during COVID, or how to eat healthy during COVID. So as we all have experienced in the last several months, these are not normal times that we are living in. The act of confining to one's home has significant impact on our health, including changes in our eating pattern, our sleeping pattern, maybe the lack of physical activity that we have. And if we have a sedentary behavior or sedentary lifestyle, then this can also affect our mental and our physical health. So along with that, we have fears of becoming ill. We probably know people around us who have succumbed to the virus. And we are also dealing with economic insecurities, loss of job. So I don't need to tell anyone about how stressful this period has been for us. So a balanced diet is more crucial at this time than at any other time for us to have, to guarantee that we have a strong immune system that can help withstand any assault by the virus. So there is currently no evidence that any supplement can really boost our immune system just by itself or treat or prevent any viral infection, except for the long-standing and very well-documented vitamin that everybody knows, which is vitamin C. Vitamin C is one of the major constituents of water-soluble vitamins, which tends to make a strong immune system. So I'll just go down and give you several suggestions about foods and supplements that you can incorporate. If you're not already doing, you can start incorporating in your diets just to strengthen your immune system, both in terms of the COVID-19 and also the repercussions that the COVID-19 has produced for us, which is more stress. You know, it has brought more stress in our lives for all of the different reasons that I mentioned. So the daily recommendation for vitamin C is that you're fine to have at least start with 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, and you can go up higher if you need. As well, there is, you can take an adequate intake of zinc and iron and vitamins A, B12, B6, and E. They are all essential for the maintenance of our immune function. So when certain amount of particular nutrients saturates our cells, then they prevent any kind of nutritional deficiencies that we have. And individuals consuming well-balanced diets, they appear to be safer with better immune systems and lower incidence of chronic diseases and infections. So what should we eat? And I need to give you I will give you just a little bit of a general recommendations here. So if you have daily consumptions of 2 cups, and that means 4 servings, so 2 cups of fruits, and the fruits are, any kind of fruit is good, but some are better than others. So apples have been documented to contain 400 healing, nutritionally high benefits and compounds in them. So 1 apple has 400 properties inside of it. So apples, bananas, strawberries, cantaloupe, melon, grapefruit, pineapples, papaya, oranges, black currants, all of those things are very wonderful for making our immune system strong. In addition to that, daily consumptions of 2 cups, and 2 cups are equal to about 5 servings of fresh vegetables, such as green bell peppers, because usually people think oranges or lemons have a lot of vitamin C, but actually studies have shown that peppers, green bell peppers or red peppers have even higher contents of vitamin C. So green bell peppers, garlic, ginger, kale, lime, coriander, broccoli, green chili peppers, and the cruciferous vegetable family. All of them are very beneficial. Legumes, beans and lentils are also very beneficial. And eating whole grains, about 180 grams of whole grains. So wheat, millet, brown rice, root vegetables, oats, all of them are very beneficial. So continuing with that, nuts, especially such as almonds, pistachios, walnuts, cashews are very much high on the list. I know that in the American diet, people mostly tend to eat peanuts. And I always tell my clients that peanuts, when you look at the list, have always been ranked at the bottom of the list because of their lack of nutritional properties compared to other nuts. But because in this country, there's more production of peanuts, it's more prevalent and you find them everywhere. But try to go for almonds, pistachios, and walnuts. Red meat, that can be eaten once or twice a week. So it's not out of the, off my list, but it's to a limited amount. And same thing for poultry, if people are interested in that, 2 times a week. And so that should be okay. And for snacks, I would say that people should try to avoid foods that are, as you know, high in sugar and high in fat or high in salt, even though I know those are the tasty ones. They're the yummy ones because our taste buds are geared towards those flavors. So that's what we would like to have. And it's also important to avoid very irregular snacking. As you know, when we talk about vegetables, try not to overcook those vegetables as it leads to the loss of some of the nutrients, their vitamins and their minerals. And if it's convenient for you, or if you must to use dried or canned fruits and vegetables, then make sure that you use varieties without added sugar or salt. Also try to consume unsaturated fats. What are they? Unsaturated fats are found in avocados, fish, nuts, soy, olive oil, and it's better to use those rather than the saturated fats. And the saturated fats are in butter, the very fatty meat, palm oils, a lot of cheese, a lot of cream. So it's also good to try to train yourself to start reading labels. Even if you don't understand, you know enough. And I always tell my clients, you think that you don't know much, but you really know enough. You know enough to know how to guide your eating in the proper way. You just don't trust yourself that you know a lot. So when I work with them, they realize that, oh, I know all these things. I just never, put them together. And as you know, drink between 8 to 10 glasses of water. Of course, the water has to do with our weight and how much we weigh. So it's not one standard amount, but usually they say anywhere between 6 to 8 or 8 to 10 glasses of water a day, because it helps to transport the nutrients in the blood and it will get rid of the waste and regulates our body temperature. Also try to avoid fizzy drinks, carbonated drinks, concentrated juices. I know these are the things that people find a lot of comfort in having. And again, like I said, it's good in moderation. Anything in moderation is good, but they do contain a lot of sugars. and try to limit those for special occasions. And of course, it goes along with that to try to maintain a healthy lifestyle of exercise, of relaxation techniques, whatever works for you, and regular sleep. And during this age of COVID, I'm sure everyone has been eating at home more, but even if we did not have COVID, just eating at home and going out for special occasions, that, especially during COVID, eating at home has been proven to be a good thing, and that's what most people have been doing. So now I wanted to switch to actually stress relieving foods. So not just the general recommendation about foods, but what is really good for us to have in terms of relieving our stress during this time of COVID. And so now that we know about how to boost our immune system, let's look at this list that I have put together for you. Avocados and bananas are really, really good for us. Why? Because they are loaded with potassium, and they will help to prevent the hardening of our heart arteries and give us a healthier heart and prevent atherosclerosis. Tea is very good for us. Tea is loaded with polyphenols and phytochemicals and antioxidants. They calm our frazzled nerves, and tea it's very common in many cultures and many countries in the world, and studies show that it might protect against certain cancers, and it has lots of benefits. Swiss chard, easily obtainable in supermarkets or if you have a little garden. Why is that important? Swiss chard is loaded with calcium and magnesium, and it will help to balance the body's stress hormone, which is cortisol. Fatty fish, very important for us. And why is that? Because they contain omega-3 fatty acids in them, and those are very good for our eyes, for our brain, for our heart, for our overall health. So if you have salmon, but then you have to choose the quality of salmon that you purchase, it has to be a better quality of salmon, wild-caught salmon. But if you have salmon, sardines, tuna, they all help also to manage the adrenaline levels to keep us calm during stressful times. Milk is good. So of course, always look for high quality. So if you have organic milk, and why is milk good? Because it is full of vitamins that can help relieve our tense muscles. And it's a very good drink to have at nighttime. So if you were little and you were drinking a little cup of hot milk or warm milk during, before bed, there's reason for that, because it also helps your mind to relax for you to have a good night's sleep. Yogurt. Again, I recommend organic, pure, clean yogurt without flavoring in it. And why is yogurt important? Because it is loaded with protein and calcium and live culture and probiotics. It's good for our bones and our teeth and for our gut health. And our gut health is super important, as 70 to 80% of our immune system health resides in our gut. So to keep a healthy gut is key really to our overall protection of our body. I mentioned earlier on when I was going over my list of general recommendations about nuts. Again, I emphasize if you spend a couple of more dollars and you buy the organic nuts, everything organic on my list, it's going to give you a better health in the long run. So why are nuts so important? Because when we have stress in our body, stress builds up and the cortisol level goes up. So stress just runs you down. But if you have nuts like almonds, pistachios, and walnuts, like I mentioned before, they can help boost our immune system. And chocolate. So I know generally people love chocolate. And why is chocolate important? Especially if you have, again, organic, and I put a plug in for fair traded, organic chocolate, dark chocolate, the darker that it is, not very dark, but somewhere between like 50 to 70%, dark chocolate is very effective, and studies shown that it has been very effective to lower the levels of our stress hormones. And then the carbs, the carbohydrates that exist in chocolate, because chocolate actually has a lot of carbs in it, it releases our mood improving serotonin. So we feel good. You know why we want to feel good when we eat chocolate or we run to it unconsciously is because it gives us that feel good, feeling that we have. So as part of stress eating in general, and especially during this COVID time that we have, comes the other facet of stress eating, which is emotional eating. So another facet of our stress is our emotional eating. So with COVID in our lives, the changes that we all have had to face, we might have different responses to eating. And maybe we are eating too frequently. Maybe we are eating out of schedule. Maybe we are eating too much, too little. So emotional eating comes with that. And what is emotional eating? You find yourself racing to the pantry or to the fridge when you're feeling down or when you're upset. So all of this is called emotional eating, stress eating, which is a whole nother branch of nutrition education and nutrition coaching. And we all do it. So this is something that we have all done it, but people who emotionally eat reach for food several times a week or more to suppress or to soothe their negative feelings. Maybe they feel guilty or shame after eating this way, which leads then to a whole nother cycle of excess eating and associated issues with that. So I thought you might find it helpful if I present a set of questions to everyone. So I'm not going to ask anyone to talk about it or to reveal anything, but this is just for your own information, for you to check yourself and see if any of these questions apply to you. If so, how frequently you do these things. And then if you want, we can have a private, separate conversation about it afterwards. But this is just to present for you to either say, yes, I relate to some of these or all of these, or no, this is not me and I don't relate to them. So you see all the questions, and I can just read a few of them. Do I eat when I'm not hungry or not eat when my body needs nourishment? Do I go on binge eating for no apparent reason? Sometimes eating until I'm stuffed or even feel sick. Do I eat sensibly in front of others and then make up for it when I'm done? Is my eating affecting my health or the way I live my life? Do I fantasize about how much better life would be if I were a different size, a different weight? So it's this whole emotional eating is a very interesting part of nutrition counseling, and it's very broad. Maybe Bernie can just send that to people if they want to spend more time thinking about it.
Sure.
And also during the question and answer, if you want, we can talk about it, or if people want to spend some time sharing their own journey, if they have emotional eating or stress eating, we can talk about it. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to move from here now to the next presentation, which is, I think it's important for people, as we're talking about them looking at themselves and how their relationship with food is, which was that previous slide. I think it's also important to provide an educational tool for people to understand their cues and understand their needs and what their body and their mind is telling them, because emotional eating and mindful eating has a lot to do with the connection between what our brain tells our stomach, what our stomach tells our brain, and how the two of them coexist in our system. So of course we all must eat to live, but you may wonder how to distinguish between the emotional cues and the hunger cues. So here we look at it. So what is physical hunger? Physical hunger develops slowly over time. Whereas if you have emotional hunger, it comes about suddenly or abruptly. Physical hunger shows you that you desire a variety of food groups. Emotional hunger shows you that you crave only certain foods all the time, and you can't get your mind off of it. And it's always on your mind. When you're working, when you're typing, you're going for that. You're thinking about that. Physical hunger shows you that you feel the sensation of fullness and you take it as a cue to stop eating. Oh, I'm getting full. I'm done. I can't have one more bite. But emotional hunger shows you that you may binge on food and not feel a sensation of fullness. You're so busy drowning yourself in that food that you're not allowing time for your brain to realize that it's done. So you don't feel the sensation of fullness. And I have had people that I have worked with where they have had to realize, when do I feel full? And then learn to stop. So physical hunger shows you that you have no negative feelings about eating. Even if you say, oh, I ate too much, I'm full, I can't eat one more bite, I'm stuffed. You say those things, but you have no negative feelings about eating. So Thanksgiving is coming, and that's something that everybody says in their house. Oh, I'm stuffed, I can't take it anymore, right? I'm so full. But emotional hunger says that you feel guilt or shame about eating. So not only you have your emotional hunger, then you have this other baggage that you have to deal with, which has to do with what do I do with it afterwards. So physical and emotional hunger may be easily confused, but these key differences, I hope they are helpful in case you are anywhere on that spectrum of eating and your relationship with food. And on top of it, now we have COVID and stress eating and emotional eating. If you are suffering from that, I'd like you to also do yourself a favor and try to understand the differences between the two. So the next question then comes, okay, I have it. This is how I am. She just presented to us. These are the slides. And I realized, because I have worked with several clients who have had emotional and stress eating, and it's a much more complicated case to work with than if someone who comes and they just have to learn about diabetic education or how to lower one's cholesterol. With emotional eating, the next thing we want to do is, how do I stop doing it? So it's important to find ways to cope with stress. And this could mean, for example, writing in a journal, reading a book, finding a few minutes to relax or to compress from the day. Move your body. That's very important. Regular exercise, going for a walk before you eat, going for a walk after you eat, jogging around the block, or doing yoga, even if it's a 15-minute yoga, 20-minute yoga. It's very important to deal in your emotional moments. And there was one study that was done that asked people to do 8 weeks of yoga. And these were people who were doing emotional eating and they were suffering from that. 8 weeks of mindfulness and doing yoga. And then they were assessed in their mindfulness and in their insightful understanding of their food and their hunger levels. And they showed that their understanding of themselves and the situations around them was drastically changed. And I know that this applies to a lot of other areas. 8 weeks is the time frame that our mind needs to make changes in a lot of other areas as well. So a food diary is a very important thing to do because it shows you what you eat and when you eat, and it may help you to identify the triggers that lead to emotional eating. So on the one hand, I said keep a journal. The journal is different than the food diary. The journal is where you pour your heart out, your mind, what's in your head, everything. So you need to have that as your support. But the food diary is your truth. It shows you if you have triggers that lead to emotional eating. It's good if you use that to work with your nutrition coach, or to show it to a therapist or psychologist, or to show it to your doctor. So you can either do the traditional way of jotting down your notes, or in a notebook, or now they have apps for everything. So they have apps for food diaries, so you can do that. And I always tell clients to be very truthful and just be very honest with what they put in their food diary, because that's what helps us to get to the bottom of it. And start to think healthy. Just start to think about healthy diet, making sure to get nutrients in the body. If you eat well throughout the day, then it may be easier to spot when you're eating out of boredom or stress or sadness. And again, eating mindfully. That is very important. What does it mean? Eating mindfully. What am I supposed to do to eat mindfully? So when you do eat, especially if you are satisfying a craving, give your body and your mind time to enjoy every delicious bite. We are in a very busy society. Drive-through food places, McDonald's, eat on the go, eat and run. I mean, all these expressions that we have, they are not conducive to us practicing mindful eating. So in the ideal world, what I always say to my clients is that in order to practice mindful eating, that they should use all of their senses, your sight, your touch, your smell, your hearing, your taste. Incorporate all of these into your eating experience. And this will help you savor every bite. It will help you to be conscious and to be in the moment. It will help your brain to recognize the difference between emotional hunger versus physical hunger. Sitting down at the table, getting rid of the distractions that we have, watching video, being on our phone, checking Facebook, checking our emails, eating with stress as we're reading the email and seeing the messages that come. When we are distracted, we are not paying attention to what we are eating, and we are not recognizing the beginning of our hunger cycle and the end of our hunger cycle. And chewing slowly. A lot of people are completely oblivious of that. Chewing slowly is really, really important. You can even practice by doing this silly thing, which is count your bites 15 to 20 times you have to chew the food, which is also very good for our digestive system. And because it takes time, when you slow it down, it takes time for the message to go to our brain that we are done and we are satisfied. We don't need to eat anymore. Purging your pantry. This is very important, taking the offenders out of your pantry. I used to, when I first started doing nutrition counseling, my mentor said to me that one of the things she used to do, she used to go to do pantry cleaning. So she would go to her clients' houses and she would do pantry cleaning for them. So consider trashing or donating the foods in your pantry that you know are not going to be good for you. The high fat, the very sweet ones, the calorie laden things like chips and all the chocolate and all the ice cream. And again, I'm not saying get rid of all of them, but have them very, very much in moderation and for special occasions, and replace them with things that are really good for you. Pay attention to volume. Resist grabbing a whole bag of chips or other food to snack on. Measuring out portions, choosing small plates to help you with portion control helps very much in your mindful eating journey. And once you're finished, don't go for the next bag or for the next portion. Practice some deep breathing or some relaxation technique, and then you will notice that you don't need that anymore. Getting support, seeking support is always very important. And to resist isolation in moments of sadness or anxiety. And in this way that we have been all living, that promotes not mindful eating. So if you have a quick phone call to a friend or family member, get support so you don't have to run to food and mask all of the other needs that you have with food. Getting rid of distractions. Like I said, again, if you're eating in front of the television, the computer, the distractions, try to switch them off. So it's important to also recognize the addictive behaviors. So some research was done a few years ago that the research was devoted to the question of food addiction. Whether or not someone could be addicted to specific foods, especially those made with refined products like white flour, sugar, salt, and fat, and if those foods in turn were responsible for some overeating and binge eating behaviors. And since it could not be proven that food itself is addictive, researchers then began to look at the addictive qualities of the behaviors. The elements of addiction included engaging in the addictive behavior like overeating or losing control. So it's important that once you recognize your addictive behavior, to also give yourself a positive self-talk. Feelings of shame, if you have feelings of guilt, are associated with emotional eating. And it's important to work on the self-talk that you experience after an episode that you have, so you get yourself out of that cycle of emotional eating behavior. Now, I'm just checking the time. I wanted to share something with you that I hope you will find it useful, helpful, and interesting. An immune boosting menu. I have shared that, and if maybe Bernie could share it with everyone else if you're interested in that.
I just dropped it in the chat.
Oh, thank you. So just to give you a little bit of a background, for a couple of years where I live in Lynchburg, Virginia, we have, I have been associated with a health food store, and they wanted to, and I do my nutrition counseling out of the offices there. And they were interested, they are very health conscious themselves, super health conscious, and they were very happy to have a nutrition coach associated with them. And they asked me, we wanted to do a healthy menu for the community and have a healthy dinner for everyone. So I did a sample presentation for the staff there to see how it goes, and they wanted to try it before we opened it up to the public. So I made that for them, and they really liked it. And I chose my ingredients to be very simple on purpose, to be not very expensive, that was also on purpose, but things that are loaded with vitamins and minerals and all the wonderful immune boosting properties that we have. So then a few months later, we did an advertising and everything, and we invited the public to come, and they came, and we had a dinner presentation. So I made all of this food for them, and I gave a presentation to them about it. And people really welcomed it, and they liked it very much. And I can share some of that with you as well to see what we made. So this food, it had, so I made a simple, the menu is this. I made a bean soup. It was a 3-bean soup. I made a quinoa and tahini miso sauce. I made a yogurt cucumber dip. And I made a sweet potato and caramelized onion. That was it. That was the menu that I chose, nice and simple. But when I was talking about it, people were very excited to see that such simple things can create a very full, complementary, complete food for them that's full of immune boosting properties. So the bean soup, I put 3 sorts of beans in it, and it's loaded with protein. So if you choose to make it for yourself, these are the things that you're giving your body. And as I said earlier on, the beans are excellent for your heart. They lower the cholesterol and your triglycerides. They very much balance your blood sugar, and they are full of antioxidants. Then moving on to the sweet potatoes. I baked a bunch of sweet potatoes, and they're very inexpensive. But sweet potatoes are one of nature's best gifts. They are loaded with beta carotenes, and that's excellent for our skin. And our skin is our first line of defense in our immune system. Then I made an onion sauce for it. And I just sauteed the onion and I let the onion be caramelized. And then a sweet flavor was released from that. And onions are wonderfully healthy for us. And I added a lot of ginger. And ginger is, again, one of those nature's miracles. It's antimicrobial, antioxidant, antiseptic. It has 2 very strong natural antibiotics in it. And so I used a lot of ginger in there. And then after that, I also added some turmeric, and I added shiitake mushrooms that are very good for our white blood cells, and they're medicinal. And then I made the yogurt with lots of garlic and cucumbers, and the cucumber is cooling and cleansing, and the garlic is, again, very good antibacterial. It has antibacterial properties. And the quinoa salad, quinoa is, as you know, is a teeny tiny grain, and it is a complete protein. And I use that as well with miso, and miso is very good for our gut health. So putting this meal together, it was not difficult, it was not expensive, and it gives a lot of good things to your body. So I just wanted to end and say that my business, I do online nutrition coaching. My business is Healthy Living with Whole Foods. The information is here. Before COVID, I used to see clients in person. Now everything and everyone is online. So is my nutrition coaching business. And I hope that you found this presentation somewhat helpful. And thank you very much for your attention. And I think I've taken up a lot of time here.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful, Mitra. We can all give a round of applause with the little reaction button, or just clap. That was great. Just a wealth of information. And we're a little bit short on time, but we still have 10 minutes for discussion, and just want to open it up for anybody who wants to share their experience with eating or nutrition tips, or something they got from here that they'd like to apply to their life when they leave. And I see Mr. Rash says, can you address organic, vegetarian, and vegan diets? Also non-GMO allergies like wheat and dairy. So I don't know if you have any tips for people who are going that route, but that's one question we got.
Organic vegetarian diet?
Yeah, any tips for people who are eating in that style, or can they use the menu that you provided?
Yeah, well, the menu that I provided is a vegetarian diet, and organic, of course, is good for everything. We don't need to get organic, like buy everything organic. There are some things, like your pineapple doesn't have to be organic. Your avocado doesn't have to be organic. But you know about the 15 clean and the 12 dirty vegetables and fruits that are always on the list of the environmental working groups. So, but organic, like, if you have the strawberry, any of the berries, the fruits that have the thin skin, vegetables, those are important to get, organic. And I'm trying to see what other questions. There are a bunch of questions here.
Yeah, actually, you can turn off your screen share, and we can just look at a few of these here. We've got one of the questions was about getting adequate calcium for if you are a vegan. Questions coming from Tracy. Thank you, Tracy.
Okay, adequate calcium for vegans.
Yeah.
Well, vegans are lucky because they have all of the nut milks that we have. So the nut milks are really important for them to get, as well as just, pure nuts. And tofu is also loaded with calcium. So vegans don't have to rely on animal products to receive their calcium now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We have a whole bunch of questions from Shanti on pecans or pecans, I don't know how you say that, as a healthy nut compared to walnuts or other nuts.
Yeah, pecans are good. Pecans are good. They are on the list. I don't think I put them on my list. Can't remember, but compared to walnuts and other nuts, but walnuts have a higher nutritional content than pecans have. The one that I would say try not to have as much of if you are addicted to it would be peanuts. And I know peanuts are very much a part of the American diet that, like children grow up with it, with peanuts, peanut butter, but it is better to have peanuts or peanut butter on occasions and have more pecans, walnuts, almonds, those sorts of things.
Thanks. And also, any opinions on milk? I know almond milk and other plant-based milks have become popular, but what is the best if you are using or drinking milk?
Milk is not bad. Now, a lot of people talk about it because they say that dairy products in general bring inflammation, and milk is one of them. So it depends. I would say it depends on your health condition. And to step back, one of the things is that the reality with nutrition health sciences is that unlike the study of some other subject material where the knowledge is set and it's repeated over and over again, nutritional science is something that's continuously in flux and it's continuously changing as more new research comes out and we hear more things. So it used to be, they used to say that, for example, eggs are not good. Now that eggs were good. Then they said, no, eggs are not so good because they are loaded with cholesterol. Now new studies show that, oh no, eggs are very good because of choline and all the other things you have. So the nature of nutritional science is that it fluctuates. So dairy, the consumption of dairy, the consumption of milk falls into that pattern of fluctuation of what the recent studies say. So generally, I would say you have to look at your own health conditions. If you have high cholesterol, if you have other conditions, if you're overweight, maybe you need to stay away from milk and not deal with it too much. But if you have a pretty healthy body, the thing that I would say, if you want to consume milk, again, the word that I use over and over again with the clients as a nutrition counselor is moderation. So the idea that Americans, the typical image that we know of Americans is growing up, they have their dinner or their lunch and then they have a glass of milk next to it and drinking. That is excessive. That's excessive and that should not happen. But if you have a little bit of milk by itself, separately, that's okay. But that milk quality has to be defined. So that milk quality has to be organic. It should not be processed. It should be healthy. So if you have that, that's okay. But it has to do with as I said, take your own health into consideration before you decide whether you have milk or you don't have milk. But I would not rule it out. Now, there are some people who say no dairy at all should be used because it causes a lot of inflammation. Personally, I choose to stay away from that. And I say it's more on a person-to-person case, individual case.
Great, thank you. A question from Haley. Can caffeine be consumed safely in moderation, or do we have to actually cut out all our coffee?
Why should you cut out coffee? That's one of the simple pleasures in life. Please don't cut out coffee or tea. No, I think coffee is good. Again, I think if you like coffee, you should make sure that how is it grown? So if it's organically grown, if it's fair traded coffee, coffee is fine to have, and but you don't have to get rid of it. You have to be careful about how much you use, again. But I don't think you need to get rid of that. Just be careful how much of it you use, how you make it, when you drink it, how does it correspond to the health condition that you have? You know, what's your health telling you about it? But no, it's actually good. It helps with your brain functions. It helps with our skin, actually. It helps with, like I said, with our immune system and boosting our immune system. And, but one thing that I would say you should do with caffeine, if you have it, and I am guilty of it myself, just because I know these things, it doesn't mean that I do them all the time. So I have to put myself in my audience's category as well. And I'm not separate from that. But if you, Haley, have caffeine, you should also make sure that with every cup of coffee that you have, you need to drink 2 glasses of water, because it does dehydrate you.
Yes.
So that you should definitely have.
Great. And before we get to the next question about milk, we have to talk about another dairy, cheese. Saying cheese, we're going to actually take a picture. So anybody who wants to be in the picture, turn on your cameras. Mary's going to screenshot it. All right.
And I love your saying cheese things. That's funny. Yeah, Mitra, it's such a beautiful presentation. So, and we're all thinking now about food differently. So let's smile to our health and say cheese. I'm going to take 2 photos. Ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Cheese. All right. And then one more.
Vegan cheese.
Thank you. All right, back to the questions in the chat.
All right, we got building off the milk question. This one's from Aisha. Do you know if our bodies absorb the vitamins and nutrients from fortified juices and milks as efficiently as they absorb it from organic whole milk? Any thoughts on that?
I think I got half the question. So fortified milk and fortified juices, right? Whether those are better, whether we can use them like from natural whole, not non-fortified.
That's the way I understood it. Aisha, did you want to add anything? Oh, you might be on mute. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's all right.
Okay, so I can tell you that one of the changes in the food industry several years ago, it turned out this way, which is let's fortify it so it's, you know, better. But to some extent, for people who have, you know, who are like deficient in foods or who have been like ill, you know, it's okay to have it, but generally it's better not to. And generally it's better not to have juices in the bottle anyway. So if you go to the supermarket and you see like Tropicana orange juice, before it was just the Tropicana orange juice. Then it became Tropicana orange juice fortified with vitamin D, with calcium, with all of those things. So in order to spend your money doing that, I would say go buy yourself a bag of oranges and cut it up and squeeze the fresh juice and drink that, because that one has the complete amount of vitamins and minerals that are balanced and calculated by nature in the fruit, rather than the manipulation that the food industry has done to create these products for us. The same thing goes with milk. If it's, you know, organic milk, it has the right amount. Now, some people maybe though, if they are underweight, if they are sick, do they want to take the fortified milk? Or, you know, the fortified milk, I would say, okay, again, I go back to what I said before. It has to do with your health condition. If you are very much under the weather, if you have like spent a lot of energy, if you had some trauma, if you just came out of a surgery, you know, it depends on where your state of health is. But if I have to choose between fortified milk and fortified juice, I would choose the fortified milk and not get that fortified juice.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And kind of on a related question, Edward asked, you mentioned concentrated juices. What is the problem with juices made from concentrate?
Sugar. Sugar is very big, and it's lacking the whole food aspect of it. Anything that you buy from a bottle, from a can, you know, those types of things, they are not what we consider whole foods. So by nature, their vitamins and supplements have been removed from them. And that's why you see the label of fortified, because they replaced them, but they put them back what they've taken out. So they try to create a balance, but it is not a natural balance that they're creating. So that's why my business's name, it's Healthy Living with Whole Foods, because we go to the origin of whole foods, because that's a complete balance that you find in the wholeness and wholesomeness of foods.
That's great.
I have a question to follow up. What about orange juice made from concentrate?
Okay, so orange juice from concentrate, it's also loaded with a lot of sugar because the balance of the real fruit is disturbed when it is manufactured by food companies. So it is several steps removed from its natural state. And when you are removed from the natural state, then that's why they have what we call manipulation. So that means the humans and the machines have added more to it. So I would definitely stay away from concentrated orange juice or concentrated fruit juices, unless you have a party and you want to create a nice big bowl of punch. Then, I mean, that's why there are always exceptions to the rule. And as I said, part of nutrition coaching and nutrition consulting, and I always say that to my clients in the first meeting, because I see when they come how anxious they are. It's not about deprivation, it's about moderation. And I have to work a lot on them to make sure I'm not depriving them of something, but I am replacing things for them, and it's all in moderation. So again, the concentrated orange juice for parties, for 4th of July, for whatever we have, okay, that's fine, we do. But concentrated orange juice every day to have with your breakfast, a small glass of concentrated orange juice every day, that's not good, because that can eventually lead to diabetes and other health conditions that we don't want to have.
Thank you so much. We got one last question and then we'll kind of wrap it up. Speaking of diet, for some who work out, I see a lot of people training and using whey protein in their diet. Is it bad to eat it? So yes whey or no whey?
This whey protein falls in the same category of what I said with nutrition sciences and how it goes back and forth. When it came out, people were saying, oh, it's great. It's the best thing that's been created, for the extra muscle mass and all of that. And then people said, no, it's too much, because all of it has to do with food and the manufacturing companies, and everything ends up being about business and money and packaging and labeling something differently to make more money. But the essence of whey protein, it's, again, to stay away from it if you don't need it, it's better. But if you do need it, if you're an athlete, if you're working out, if you need to build muscle, if you, again, have been under stress, or you've had a surgery, or you had a bad disease, or you need to recuperate, then whey protein is going to give you some extra assistance to have. But if you don't need to have that, stay in the middle course, moderation. No need to get the whey protein. So I would say, no way, maybe, like you said. No way, maybe.
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you for all of your amazing questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to actually share with you guys an opportunity to continue this conversation with Mitra. We are actually holding an online auction for the Global Youth Village, which is starting next Friday on November 20th, and it's running until December 5th. And one of the auction items that you can bid on is actually 4 one-hour sessions with Mitra. So you can ask all kinds of questions that deal specifically with your nutritional needs. And we're going to have that link to that on our Global Youth Village website. And speaking of the Global Youth Village, we are running this auction as part of a larger fundraiser, and our goal is to get $20,000 by December 2020 to guarantee the Global Youth Village this summer, and we are 80% there. So if you can donate, please do. You can go right to the globalyouthvillage.org website, and there's a little donate button right in the left-hand corner. That will super help us to guarantee the Global Youth Village. And then one just note before we hand it back over to Mitra and Mr. Rash for any last comments is that we're having another talk coming, Global Viewpoints Forum. We have one on November 25th with Dan Harrison and Jesse Teasley on eco-warriorism, on applying indigenous wisdom. And just a little bit on Dan Harrison. He's from the Choctaw Nation and a pastor of the Church of the Covenant, which has been a force for racial justice in the area of Lynchburg. And Jesse Teasley of the Lakota Nation, he is at Teasley Traditional School of Wushu and is a grandmaster in Kung Fu. And so this should be a very interesting talk, and you are all welcome, and feel free to bring others as well. So let me stop the, oh, I don't know if I actually hit the share button there, but here is the share. There we go. All right. And yeah, so thank you so much, Mitra. This has been like super helpful, and I mean, it just generated so much discussion, and I wish we could just go on further, because I mean, I could also talk about this forever. Thank you so much. Let's give her another round of applause. Great job.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, great.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. So
it was a pleasure to do this.
Yeah. Wonderful. That's great. So any sort of last closing suggestions, Mitra, and then we'll turn it over to Mr. Rash.
I just hope you found this somewhat helpful. Nutrition is a big field. And I say what I say to my clients, which is everyone knows a lot. Everyone already knows all the information they need to know. So when they come to me for nutrition coaching, I say to them that it's not that they don't know the answer, it's just that they find it difficult to put all the different pieces together, because they need to have someone to help them and to guide them and to be there to tailor to their individual needs. So you all have a lot of information. It's just a little bit of the tweaking that might be needed to put you on the path to eating better. And again, at the same time, we are all guilty of all of these things that I said. So no one is perfect and no one's diet is absolutely excellent, but it's just how do we deal with more moderation and honoring and respecting the importance of whole foods and incorporating more of that into our diets.
Great. Thank you so much. And
thank you.
Well, let's turn it over to Mr. Rash for any closing remarks.
Thank you. Thank you, my dear. I have one question before my final comments is, what's for lunch and what time is it?
Packaged food and pizza, of course.
All right. That's good. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. Please put us on your schedule for every 2 weeks. We will have the pleasure of seeing and hearing from you and talking with you. Stay healthy and positive. I want to end with another quote from an ancient. Mitra quoted Hippocrates, and I'm going to quote Herophilus, who was the founder of anatomy and also a philosopher and a scholar 2 millenniums ago. Around 200 years before the Christian era. He said, when health is absent, wisdom cannot reveal itself, art cannot manifest, strength cannot fight. Wealth becomes useless and intelligence cannot be applied. Obviously, it's a timely message, and we see it playing out every day, unless you don't watch the news. Enjoy yourselves. Thank you. We're going to leave this open for a little while. Yeah. Hi, Tracy. Namaste.
Hello.
Namaste. Tracy Dieter Verma is a great teacher. and Aisha's, I think she's left, but I haven't seen her for a long time. Zanezha is calling us from Norway, I think. And what a wonderful, wonderful group of people. All you wonderful people. It's so nice to see you. Jade, it's nice to see your name there. I don't see you, but it's so nice to see you too.
Wonderful.
Jade was my host many, many years ago in Colorado.
Oh, awesome.
And
Well,
a
if you
great
guys,
supporter of Legacy.
if you have to jump off, thanks for joining us. But if you want to stick around for a few minutes and just chit chat, please feel free to stay on. Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Safe journeys, Khalid.
Tracy, I loved your food. What were you cooking there?
Oh, I have a potato, cauliflower, and peas, and I have let's see, I have tomatoes and avocados, millet, which I roast with cumin seeds, and yeah. So with the black eyed peas, I put black cardamom, which makes it amazing.
Can
And
you show
yeah.
me again? I didn't quite.
Well,
get
this is without the black eyed
That's
peas.
amazing.
And that's a tomato I grew in my porch garden because I don't get a lot of
Wow.
sun. So I have a second story porch that I get a little sun to grow some vegetables. Yeah.
That's awesome. Actually, speaking of that, I'm glad, Mitra, you mentioned about Swiss chard because I'm growing some of that and I had no idea what to do with it. I was like, God, it's growing all over the place, but
It is so versatile. It's really good. It's not one of my favorite vegetables. I have to admit, I should eat more of it, but it's really versatile. So easy, easy, easy. Just do like a quick stir fry and you'll just load yourself up with a ton of good stuff.
awesome.
Yeah, I used my special recipes cooking it up for my mom when I visited her recently. And she said, I like my way better. And her way is just steaming it or boiling it and adding vinegar. And that's it. And it's perfectly good like that too.
Yeah.
So Mitra, I had a question. You know, people are always talking about juicing, like, oh, juice everything and just drink the juices. But what's your thoughts about that? I mean, sure, juice is good, but it shouldn't replace a meal, really, should it?
Juicing fruits and vegetables to some extent is good. But again, you know how like people go through these nutrition and these nutrition fads, they're like the pendulum and it swings from one side to another. So people went through that side of like everything juicing every day, all day long, and all the green juices and everything like that. But our bodies cannot metabolize and process all of the juicing that happens because when the fiber is removed from the vegetables and fruits, when the carbs are removed from them, that juice alone is going to be difficult for the body to process. That's why nature has it balanced in the most amazing way to have all of these different ingredients in it. So I, for example, tried to do some juicing some years ago because we bought a juicer because there was that, you know, movement of like juicing. And I did it a little bit and I couldn't handle it too much. So I don't do any juicing really, maybe on some occasions, very rarely, but it's better to eat your whole fruit and your whole vegetables and not so much juicing. Now, again, I go back. If the body has gone through some trauma, if the body needs to be replenished, if you need a lot of like the electrolytes and things like that, then you can maybe for a brief period of time to do some juicing. But as an alternate to like not eating fruits and vegetables and just go to juicing, I wouldn't do that because you're actually losing a lot. You think you're doing a good thing, but you're losing other things.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You know so much. Thank
Some
you.
others joining us. Did you guys have things that kind of resonated with you during the talk or questions? Jade or Sanejna or Trinity or Usmani, Maurice? Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to jump in.
Mitra, I would be curious to know what your take is on some of the algae, different spirulina and chlorella, different superfoods that are blue-green algae.
Algae in general, I think are good. You have to be careful not to saturate your body with them, but algae are good. The blue algae is good. And along with that, I would also say seaweed is very good. It's seaweed is like a magnet that pulls out the toxins from our system. But having said that, it's kind of an acquired taste as well. So if you are from an Asian descent, if you are used to having algae and the seaweeds and all that incorporated into your food, and I see Tracy is showing us her bowl of wonderfulness in there. So if you are, you can take it, your body can receive it without having any reactions. That's fine. But I definitely would give a A+ to the algae and seaweed.
That's so cool.
And even if we are not Asian, to make some seaweed soup and, to put those wonderful mushrooms in it, like the shiitake and maitake and all of those things. Yeah, that's fine.
That's so cool. I remember when you were talking about emotional eating, that's something that like totally I relate to because I am such an emotional eater. And something that really helped me that someone taught me was this acronym HALT, like when you're feeling like you need to eat something really bad for you, they just say, you got to stop yourself, just halt and ask, am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? And is that what I'm actually getting at? So instead of, just filling up with food, is there something else that's sort of getting at me? And I found that really helpful. So I was pausing. I'm like, well, actually, yeah, I guess I'm just, tired. I don't actually need to eat anything right now. I just need to sleep, or
That's why I wanted to talk about this because many people are guilty of that. And being originally from another country, I still see, sometimes I see myself as part of the American society and people. Sometimes I see myself removed from it and looking into it. So looking into the American culture, I have always noticed that Americans have a very strong, very high level of emotional and stress eating that I would find, for example, in people in my country. So it's a very real issue that Americans deal with. And the proof is that when you look at the standard American diet, you look at the general overall population in this country, you look at the diseases that people have, the underlying factor for many of these things is their emotional eating and stress eating. So, and like I said in my talk, all of us are at one point or another during the week, let's say, we fall into that category of emotional eating because we are our emotions. We're not just always doing it correctly, but it has to do again with, is it moderation or is it excessively, doing it? And it is it's a whole nother branch of the science of nutrition because you deal a lot with people's psychology and their lives and all of those things. But I was hoping that just by presenting first the questions so people can have a chance to ask themselves and kind of like come face to face with themselves to see, do I do any of these? How many of these do I do? And then if they say yes, then what are the solutions to working with it if someone is able to manage it themselves on their own? Then there are people who have a very complicated situation. And then for that, they need to see specialists and therapists and all that to help them move along their pattern of emotional eating.
Yeah.
Glad that you found that. And this acronym of HALT is very good.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I think if I might say, there's a causality issue here too, because the fact is that the type of food we eat may cause the loneliness. It may be a causal factor for accentuating loneliness and anger and tiredness too. So
yeah,
it works in both directions.
yeah, it does
Yes.
seem like
It's not just if I am angry. If I am angry, then that's or lonely. Yes, of course, it's going to affect, but the type of food we eat. That's also why I think that, and Mitra didn't have time, and of course didn't get into another area, which is the philosophy